What's going on, everybody? If you thought I forgot, I didn't. So, as you can see by the poster on the screen, this is the review for the movie review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I gotta tell you, James Gunn, he did his thing, man. He did his thing. I want to right off the back. I want to get out the way. No woke political agenda in this movie. Just some good old fashioned funs and laughs and some a lot of tear jerking moments. I was about to say some, but it was a lot. This movie takes place obviously after Avengers Endgame and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and all that. So this also takes place after Thor Love and Thunder, where this is sometime after that. This is sometime after their adventures with Thor. They left Thor. This is a short while after that. And this movie is basically a Rocket Raccoon movie. I can't talk. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a fleshed out story about Rocket and his past. Because the main enemy, I forgot what they called him in the movie, but the black guy that Rocket mentions in the trailer, he's the main enemy of the movie. The guy who basically created Rocket Raccoon and made him the way he is, and it's through this emotional final roller coaster. As this will be, as reported, this will be the final, full solo movie for the Guardians of the Galaxy. And if they return, they are now on the same level as, how Robert Downey Jr. was with Tony Stark. They are now they probably will appear in other movies, but they will never, at least for now, there won't be another solo. There won't be a part 4. Which has its own drawbacks and and good things about it. Like I do like how they ended it, but I get to that in a moment. This movie is heavily about Rocket Raccoon and his past that they tease in the first two movies. They tease his backstory. In the first 2 movies, they always asked Rocket about his backstory, but he would never talk about it. It was something that it was something about his backstory, something about his history that he was just too painful for Rocket to share. And that continued in this movie, where Rocket still wouldn't share, but due to a certain event, this event involving Adam Warlock, they have to delve into Rocket's past to save someone. Now I'm not gonna tell you who that someone is because this is a non-spoiler review, but that just says the person that you see in the trailers. You seen Chris Pratt, Star-Lord, look like he was screaming in pain, agony over obviously a loss, or that's the person in question. But the person in question is the reason why they have to delve into Rocket's past forcefully, with or without his consent, because it's what's necessary now to beat this guy. They need to know what this guy's about, and knowing is knowing Rocket's past. So this movie is a roller coaster about Rocket's past and what this guy has done to earn the ire. And I mean, when I say this movie is a tearjerker, it's a tearjerker because of Rocket's story. The amount of abuse and just evilness and cruelty towards not just Rocket, but just towards his friends that was his fellow experimental friends that he ended up bonding with. I mean, man, It's a tearjerker, man. It's like I can't even say like there's just not one scene that would get you. There's multiple scenes, and I will say that it all involves Rocket. All those scenes, all the tear-jerking scenes, or the majority of them, involves Rocket. There are some that don't involve him, but the majority involves him. That's why I said this is a Rocket Raccoon movie, and that's also that's also a thing that they take from the Avengers, where in Avengers Endgame you finally hear Avengers Assemble. You finally hear Rocket Raccoon in this movie. And we finally have a conclusion to the ongoing, the running gag throughout the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe of him saying I'm not a raccoon. It's a conclusion to that. That's why this is a Rocket movie, because it's all about him. And this movie is about family and healing from past trauma. Now, that being said, the side stories, like these little side plots, is actually what you would think the main plot was about. Now, going into this, I thought this was going to be. I didn't think this was going to be a Rocket movie. I thought this was going to mainly be about, Anna Warlock and Star-Lord trying to find Gamora, and because you remember some of the early things that were said about the movie was that this was supposed to be like a love movie about him trying to reconnect with Gamora. This time being the past Gamora, because the Gamora that came to the past along with Thanos is trapped in the current, in the present, and that's actually been relegated to the side story. Star-Lord and his quest to reconnect with Gamora is relegated to the side story along with Anna Warlock. Anna Warlock is more essential to the main story that's being told in this movie than Star-Lord and Gamora are. Their love story is not even it's actually a side plot in this. The majority of Anna Warlock's scenes are connected to the main story. He felt like more like a plot device than an actual fleshed out character. If you don't know, he was teased at one of the end credit scenes, end credit or post credit scenes in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And they do play on that in this one, where they follow up on that by having him an actual character, but it's not enough. Not a lot was known about him. They do delve into it a little bit, but not enough to make me be like, I should care about Anna Warlock. When it comes to this part of the Marvel comics, I'm not too sure on Anna Warlock's backstory. So if you guys know, let me know in the comments if he was kind of comic book accurate. But I do know enough that he has run-ins with the Guardians and many other Marvel characters in the Marvel comic book universe. So I know that this is accurate when his time with the Guardians, because it's what happens. But he's more like a plot device to the overall villain. And speaking of the overall villain, he was perfect. He was perfect as a villain. He made you, because he's he's a villain that's tied to Rocket's past and the abuse that he's went through and all those tear-jerking moments. When you see those tear-jerking moments and you see how he reacts to those, how he reacts to them, like just the cold-heartedness, the evilness, it suckers you in more, because you really want that guy to get his gut coming, the justice that Rocket and them deserve. You want that guy to get what's coming to him, because he's that much of an asshole. And there is a scene that shows his arrogance. And because he's like this doctor that like to experiment on creatures and he's trying to play God, basically. And there's a good scene in there where he's told they say something to him about God, and and he says God is not here. That's why I stepped in, and that's how he and I'm like, wow, you really see yourself as that person. You really see yourself as God. But yeah, this was a good movie, man. Uh, a lot of conclusions, a lot of tearjerker, a lot of healing. Like I said, this is about family and healing, and finally for a lot of people, not just Rocket, but for a lot of people to stop running from their past and face their past. And the thing, like the one of the things like I didn't like about this movie was the conclusion to. I didn't like the conclusion to Star Lord's and Gamora's story. I felt like we didn't spend enough time with them, and the time we did spend with them, or the time we spent a lot. I wouldn't say we didn't spend enough time, but the time we did spend with them, and the time they were together on screen, and the whole story as a whole, felt like it was not the conclusion that should have happened. Because and the way how you get that, the way how I came from that was their story leading into Avengers Infinity War, where the original Gamora was killed by Thanos. I felt like they both deserved better justice than that. And I didn't feel like this movie did their characters justice in that regard. Because the way they went with them is not the way I thought this movie was going to go. Another thing I didn't like was Adam Warlock's juices in this. I want to say I didn't like him at all as a character. Like he was just awful. I didn't like how they used him in the movie. He was he a little bit of the comedy side came from him too. There are a lot of cameos. Didn't want to say that. It's a lot of cameos from different people from different walks of life. You know some of these people. Some of these people was cast. This one person was cast as Nathan Drake, as a person who they wish was Nathan Drake in the movie. If you don't know who Nathan Drake is, that's from the Uncharted games. So that's a real big hint as who was one of the people that cameoed in the movie. And I think he actually appears in one of the trailers or one of the little clips they got on YouTube. But just in case you haven't seen it, I want to spoil it. But this movie, when it comes to Adam Warlock, the way they used him, it made it seem like that build of that dun 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 moment from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 didn't really live up to the expectations of that. Because they made a point to let you know the next one will have Adam Warlock. But then once we get Adam Warlock, it's like, that's what you do with him? You made it seem like he was going to be really integral. And he did not feel like he was a big part of the plot. Though he was in a sense. But once the movie plays out, it gets to a point where you forgot that he was a part of the main story. He was the reason why what kicks off this story. You know, you forget that because after a while, it just seems like he just fades to the back. And that's the one thing. That's another thing I don't like about it. It was that I don't like. So to recap, I don't like the way how Peter and I would say this was just a nitpick, but I really don't like their conclusion to this story. I really don't. And I don't like the way they use Adam Warlock. I'm trying to figure out, was there something else I didn't like? Because the rest is a lot of good. It's a lot of good, but I'm trying to figure out. No, that was it. Those are the only two things I didn't like about the movie. Everything else was good. The acting was good. The visuals was good. The overall story was good. Just, like I said, it was just a little subplots and sub stories that wasn't good. Oh, I guess as you could say that the overall fact that if you count that, I guess you could count this at the same thing I already said, but I guess the overall fact that both Gamora to me and Peter and Animal Water felt like more like side characters, and like their story, which we was led to believe was going to be the main plot. Cause this was said to be like a love movie, a love story, but it really was. It was more like it would if you will say it was a love story, it wasn't for Peter or Gamora. It was more for like Rocket. Um, but it wasn't love like he found love. It was more like love of family, love of friends, and the heartbreak that comes with losing a loved one. Like that, in that sense, yeah, it was a love story, but not for Peter and Gamora. More so for her, for Rocket. And the reason why I bring this up is because Zoe said this was going to be her last hurrah as Gamora. Like after this, she's not returning no more as Gamora. But they did say Gamora. They do say like the rumblings from Marvel said that Gamora will return in future projects, not just in animated form, but she will return in live action form. But that doesn't. But it seems like it won't be Zoe as Gamora anymore. Which is like, and then Star Lord will return, but you don't know if Chris Pratt is going to return. But I think he will return for Secret Wars. There are two post credit scenes, a mid credit and an after credit scene. They're worth staying for. I want to say they necessarily set up something that's next, but you could tell by one scene that at least one character will be present on Earth when everything goes down with the Avengers thing. So I'm trying. Was there any other thing? The acting, the visuals, the overall story, the character developments for everybody, and everybody's placement in this and at the end was cool. There is a scene that shocked the hell out of me, and you're gonna know it when you see it because it's the first time this character says something other than what the characters usually say. Uh, Other than that, yeah, this movie gets a 8 out of 10 for me, just because there were just a couple of things I didn't like, but overall, this was a good movie. This was a good return to form for the Marvel cinematic universe. This was a good way. This was a good sign that Marvel is getting back on the right track. We're making good movies again. Because this is like out of the last few movies we gotten since the end of Avengers Endgame. Excuse me. I would say this is the first movie to be just as good, as the movies leading up to the Avengers Endgame, to the Avengers movie, the last couple of phases, the original 3 phases and stuff like that. This was a good Marvel movie. If I would have to say, this was better than Shang-Chi. This was better than a lot of Marvel movies that we have coming out. This was better than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium. And Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium sets up Avengers: Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty. So this was a good movie. This was a good movie. But you let me know in the comments down below what you thought, and if you enjoyed my review, you know what to do. You hit this button right here for all of my reviews of movies or TV shows. And if you enjoy this video so much and want to support the channel, you know what to do. Hit those buttons. And as always, hitting you on these videos for more of my amazing content. But they're going anywhere because I got gameplay, raw review, and maybe some reactions. And I might do another Mr. Baldwin reaction. So who knows? Peace out.